Are Rohit Sharma and Virat Kohli playing the Ranji Trophy because they really want to, or is there something more to this story?
Now, there are certain cricketers playing the Ranji Trophy match this week and the next week after a very long time, and it makes absolute no sense for them to play it. And before we talk about why, and if you think this is a PR stunt, hit that subscribe button.
To understand the sequence of events and why Indian cricket is at the stage that it is currently, we need to go back to last year before India's home series where they took on Bangladesh and New Zealand. After the home series against England at the start of the year, India then went on to have the IPL for the next couple of months, and from there on we had the T20 World Cup, post which this long home season was due for Indian cricket. And before this home season was going to start, we of course had the Duleep Trophy. One more important thing to note is this was the time where Indian cricket management was changing hands. Rahul Dravid had won the T20 World Cup for India, and it was the end of his term, and Gautam Gambhir had now taken over the reins of Indian cricket. And one of the first things that he spoke about was an emphasis on the domestic structure and how he wants a lot of the Indian players to be available for various forms of domestic cricket, ranging from Ranji Trophy to the Duleep Trophy and also the List A format Vijay Hazare as well.
Now, starting with the Duleep Trophy, there were 16 players who played in the Duleep Trophy who, by the end of the Border Gavaskar Trophy, made it to the India squad. And the obvious names who didn't play Duleep Trophy were Rohit Sharma, Virat Kohli, Jadeja, who was first included in the squad and then opted out. You also had Mohammad Siraj, who was ill. Jasprit Bumrah, of course, wasn't included because you wouldn't want to risk him with injury. And Ravichandran Ashwin, who retired by the end of the Border Gavaskar Trophy. Now, as much as Gambhir emphasized the importance of domestic cricket to get selected for the India squad, for whatever reason, it seemed like it was only applicable for people fighting for a position and not the seniors who were already established in the test squad. With the culture of Indian cricket going around, it wasn't a big surprise that the senior men did not feature in the Duleep Trophy.
And here we take it to the first home series after this Duleep Trophy, the series against Bangladesh, where most of these players featured. You had all of the seniors back in the squad. Kohli was back after that long break where he did not play the England series. Rohit Sharma was also coming off good form from that England series into this Bangladesh series. India, of course, went on to win that series 2-0. In fact, the players who had participated in the Duleep Trophy seemed to have better returns than the seniors like Rohit and Kohli, and the stats are also there to see. Very interestingly, every batter who played the Duleep Trophy averaged 40 plus for the Indian team, whereas the likes of Kohli and Rohit only averaged 33 and 10 respectively. Now, a discussion that had emerged from this Bangladesh series was the mode of dismissals of both Kohli and Rohit, who were getting out in the usual manner. Rohit caught on the crease. We've also made a video on this, so check it out. And same with Kohli, poking balls right outside the off stump. There's a video for this too, so go check it out. And because this was just a 2 test match series, a lot of people thought that Kohli and Rohit would get back into form by the time New Zealand came to India for the 3 test match series.
Now, a lot of people assumed this series would be a cakewalk for India and we would make it to the WTC final, but we all know that wasn't the case. Virat Kohli and Rohit Sharma continued to struggle with an average of 15 by the end of the series. Rishabh Pant, interestingly, was the highest scorer of the series with an average of 43. There was also a lot of conversation about Aswin's form, which is very, very funny because he was just the man of the series against Bangladesh. But Gautam Gambhir brings in Washington Sundar. He plays 2 matches, picks up 16 wickets. Jadeja too picks up 16 wickets by the end of 3 matches. Now, this is also when things started taking a turn, not just for the brand and image of certain players, but Indian cricket as a whole. Because we lost a test series at home after 12 years. There were talks about Aswin being dropped for the Australian series. There were talks about Rohit Sharma, the captain, and his incompetence as a captain. There were talks about if Rohit Sharma will even feature in the first test match in the Border Gavaskar Trophy. There's a lot of chaos even before we landed in Australia.
Now, right after the end of the New Zealand series, there were a couple of Ranji matches that were scheduled, but the fixtures were just too closely packed, and it would not make sense for Indian players on the New Zealand series to be playing these Ranji Trophy matches because of the fact that the Border Gavaskar Trophy was right around the corner. Not only that, India A also flew to Australia to play a couple of tour games against them, but here too, only KL Rahul and Dhruv Jurel were allowed to fly out to play the second tour game, and the reason this was even possible was because KL Rahul had been dropped from the Indian squad mid-series against New Zealand, whereas Dhruv Jurel had not played any game. The reason we bring this up is because a lot of people thought that a lot of the Indian cricketers could have played those Ranji games or those tour matches that would help as preparation for them before they went into the BGT itself. But logically speaking, the sheer volume of cricket that was around in that period would have meant that this would be detrimental to their rest and routines. So this begs the question if this is something that the players need to account for or something that the board needs to ensure they're doing correctly at the time of scheduling itself.
Come the first test match in the Border Gavaskar Trophy, we have Jasprit Bumrah being the captain. KL Rahul is opening in place of Rohit Sharma, who hasn't even flown out to Australia yet. Devdutt and Dhruv Jurel are in the middle order, and Harshit Rana and Nitish Kumar Reddy make their Indian debut. And interesting Interestingly, with Aswin just having one bad series, he was dropped for Washington Sundar, and even though we went on to win the first test match, there was a lot more questions to be answered, because in the second test match we had Rohit Sharma coming in, we had Shubman Gill getting fit again, so there were a lot more questions about who will get dropped and who will be picked and where will KL Rahul bat.
Setting the stage for the second and third test match, just think from the point of view of Rohit Sharma, who's not had runs under his belt for the last 9 or 10 innings. Not only that, KL Rahul had showed great promise in that first test match, opening the innings, and that would mean that if Rohit Sharma had to make his way back into the squad as the captain, which he would have to bat in the middle order. And that's exactly what he did. Rohit Sharma decided to slot himself at number 6 and to let KL Rahul open the batting. But in a press conference, and something that stood out was how Rohit Sharma almost complained about how personally that was not his batting preference, but this is something that he had to do for the team. This is also where Rohit Sharma's selfless captain narrative seemed to take off, something that had always been around in the media itself, but this just took it to a whole new level. In the second and third test match combined, Rohit Sharma got just all of 19 runs, whereas Kohli got a combined total of just 21 runs, and there were questions raised on both of these batters. Despite Kohli getting a century in that first test match in Perth, there were still questions on his batting because of the manner of his dismissals. This was also the case for Rohit Sharma. One other thing that happened was with the return of Rohit Sharma, Aswin also was back in the squad for the pink ball test, but after the third test match, Ravichandran Ashwin surprisingly announced his retirement mid-series.
And this mid-series announcement caused a whole frenzy in the media, because they started talking about how there is a potential rift amongst the Indian players, how some Indian players are not happy with the management, how there's a particular reserve who spoke to a journalist and leaked out a lot of dressing room details, and this just continued to go on by the end of the series and even in January. And come the fourth test match, because of Rohit's failures, and of course he was under pressure not just as a captain but as a batter, he was back on top opening the innings while KL Rahul was batting number 3. Shubman Gill was surprisingly and unfortunately dropped. Even after all of this, Rohit Sharma still failed in this test match with just 12 runs in this test match, with KL Rahul only scoring 24 batting at number 3. And this is the test match where NKR scored 100.
It also didn't help that by this point in the series, India were down 2-1 going into the fifth test match. Come the fifth test match, this was historic for a lot of reasons, not only on the field but also off it. This time period threw amazing insight into how a PR team can definitely save a player and even glorify them despite them being dropped from the squad. Rohit Sharma, the Indian captain, who not only had not had a great series as a captain but had not had a great few test matches as a batter itself, had decided to potentially opt out of that fifth test match. Shubman Gill was back in the squad and KL Rahul was once again opening the innings, but it did not seem to make a difference as India went on to lose the test match. But before getting to the end of that result in the BGT, something very peculiar happened on day 2 of that fifth test match. Rohit Sharma came out on day 2 in that lunch break to do an interview with Jatin Sapru from Star Sports, and here Rohit Sharma clearly mentioned how he had decided to opt out from this fifth test match because he thought that he was being a hindrance to the Indian batting lineup. He also for some reason thought that it would be important for him to mention that he wasn't dropped nor is he going to be retiring. Now this interview seemed extremely unnecessary and it showed some sort of selfishness from the point of Rohit Sharma. It's not something that was needed on day 2 of a test match in the middle of that test match itself, especially when you're the captain of the team and have decided to opt out. It almost felt like there was an effort made to twist the narrative and not the fact that Rohit Sharma's career might be coming to end in the test format.
The same day that this interview happened, a lot of Bollywood actors and actresses started praising Rohit Sharma, and there was a lot of screenshots and hashtags and everything being shared, which almost seemed like a calculated move from Rohit Sharma's PR to make sure that his image is saved and the fact that he's not dropped, but he has in fact opted out. This almost seemed like this news became a lot more bigger than the fact that India lost the Border Gavaskar Trophy after 10 years. Gavaskar and Irfan Pathan, during a segment in Star Sports, they were talking about how certain players seem to be bigger than the game itself, and the brand image of certain players seem like they're influencing selection in the Indian team.
Couple of other players too, like Rishabh Pant, were caught in this crossfire, and a lot of ex-cricketers tore into these batters for the kind of dismissals and the kind of form that they'd shown in the Border Gavaskar Trophy. Most importantly, Gautam Gambhir's management came under extreme scrutiny, not only because of the fact that they lost the Border Gavaskar Trophy, but also because they'd lost the home series and they'd also lost an ODI series to Sri Lanka. This sparked a lot of outrage on social media, and a lot of fans were calling for the removal of Gautam Gambhir from that Indian coach position. Not only that, a new batting coach was brought into the setup despite Abhishek Nair already helping out with the batting coach duties. If all of this wasn't enough, Indian cricket saw one of its most legendary days where BCCI essentially treated the Indian players like school kids. BCCI put out a set of 10 rules that was to be followed by the cricketers who were part of the Indian cricket team, And while there has been no official document released on either BCCI's website or credible media houses' websites, we do see that a leaked PDF was found in certain tweets or in certain articles.
Now, the Border Gavaskar series is done and dusted. We have lost the series. We have the 10 set of rules that the BCCI have released. And that's when the conversation started of, will these Indian players, especially the senior players, will they play the Ranji Trophy matches? And that's when we saw the video of Rohit Sharma going to Wankhede practicing with the Mumbai team. And that's when the dominoes started falling, because right after Rohit Sharma and his PR work, a lot of Indian players started opting in to play the Ranji Trophy matches, who essentially should have been taking rest before the England series and the Champions Trophy. Now, of course, Rohit Sharma, Jaiswal and Shubman Gill, who are not featuring in the T20 series, are playing the Ranji Trophy. Mohammad Siraj, interestingly, who's bowled the most number of overs in the last couple of years, who should be taking rest, is also playing the Ranji Trophy. Virat Kohli, who hasn't played for 13 odd years, has opted to play the last group stage game for Delhi. And even Rishabh Pant and Jadeja, who again should have been taking rest, have opted to play for their state sides. Now, this begs the question of, what's the point of playing Ranji Trophy now when the next series is the ODI series against England, and then you have the Champions Trophy, and then you have the IPL, and 6 months down the line is when you have the next test series, which is in England, which is a bit hypocritical, because you choose not to play the Dilip Trophy match before your home test season. You choose not to play the Ranji Trophy match before the Border Gavaskar Trophy because of the tight scheduling and the conditions, yet you choose to play the last few Ranji Trophy games to prove exactly what?
To prove that it's more important for you to ensure that your brand name is saved so that you can come in and get selected for the squad time and again, despite you not putting in any kind of performances. And hypothetically speaking, what if the Indian players don't get runs in these Ranji Trophy games? Does that mean that they won't get selected for an England tour that is 6 months down the line after a lot of one-day and T20 cricket in completely different conditions? That makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. And it would be interesting to go and ask these players if they're actually interested in playing the Ranji Trophy after all of the grueling cricket that they've had, or if they're doing this just to make sure that the selectors still have them in their eyes to be selected for that England tour.
This might seem like an attack on players, but this raises the question of if players are doing this because they have to, or because they have the need to make sure the image out there is very secure. Because if it's the latter, then the system itself is at fault. The way players are selected, backed, and even looked at, if it depends on the PR image, then you're not particularly playing a sport, but you're taking part in a money grabbing scheme. Now, because Indian cricket and the BCCI are the biggest thing in the country, it almost seems like not just the people in BCCI who have the power, but also players themselves who have a bigger brand image and brand value also have power, and it seems like they can run the system the way they want to and the way they please to, which is a problem not just for Indian cricket but cricket as a whole around the world.
If these are views that you echo or have something to say against, definitely leave your comments down below. We'd be more than happy to read these. Like this video, share it with people who feel otherwise or even on the same subject. Most importantly, hit that subscribe button. All of our socials are in the links in the description. We also have an email newsletter, so check it out if you haven't already. We also might be starting YouTube memberships soon, so if you haven't filled the form yet, definitely fill it. Thank you so much for watching.